Welcome back to The Nation and welcome to our media panel, media commentator Brian Edwards and Bill Ralston, listener columnist. Welcome to you both. Let's start off with the big issue this week, X Factor. Yeah, you're laughing, Bill. Are you watching?
No, I'm not watching it. I despise this kind of program. I find them very cruel, and particularly the judging panel, where they always have one judge who's designed to be nasty and try and rip people down. And it's sort of, I just find it the most unedifying kind of television.
But that's the joy of it. That's the schadenfreude, the joy at other people's misfortunes. Yeah. That's one half of it. And the other half is the sort of wonderful ugly duckling syndrome. The idea that some poor soul who can come out, it's just happened on the programme here, of course, is suddenly going to be catapulted into world fame. It's marvellous. Doesn't your heart go bump, bump, bump when you watch that?
There is a programme on Māori television called Homai Te Paki, and they don't have a panel of judges. It's just people vote, and everyone cheers for the contestants, and one guy eventually wins. That's a far more gentle and nice and Kiwi way.
Well, no, I'm surprised how many people watch it, compared with how many people would have watched American Idol.
It's probably one of the top rating on Māori television.
I'm going to butt in here. There was a lovely story, actually, from a woman, Renee Martin, from Upper Hutt, and I think she's become something of our Susan Boyle. You won't know who I'm talking about, but let's have a listen.
I'm Renee Maurice. I'm 22. I come from Upper Hutt.
You see, we love a good storyline there.
Well,
What's the appeal?
But without being unkind to this lady, this is the ugly duck syndrome actually in operation here. Here's this lovely woman who came on. She was so worried about what would happen that she actually asked another contestant to put her makeup on for her. And then she comes out, and we all sit there and we think, oh dear, poor soul. And wonderful, this marvellous voice comes out. Let me tell you something. I still look at the clip of Susan Boyle on YouTube at her first appearance, and tears run down my cheeks.
You're a deeply unusual man.
I'm not.
Meantime, there are tears running down the cheeks of senior management at TV3 when they look at the ratings, because there's some pretty big ratings.
The ratings are doing very well. It's the 4th most popular programme on at the moment, so that's extremely good.
Behind
and for all
Nation.
the reasons I've given, people just love this sort of, and they love the cruelty to some extent.
Yeah, that's
but
the
you need to have a
worries me.
balance.
Oh,
What's wrong with the New Zealand version is that 3 of these judges are wet. They're not saying anything. They say, oh, that was really good. Oh, I thought you were amazing.
There's 3
oh,
lovely judges, and then there's one who's a bit of a, this
you also
Simon
need,
Cowell.
You need some sexual tension as well. You
You
need Simon Cowell and Paula Abdul, where you're not quite sure. Are they sleeping together? Do they hate one another? All that stuff. This is what television, Bill, is all about, not silly current affairs programs.
Phil hasn't got a clue what you're talking about, just quietly. Let's move it on to politics a little bit, and the X factor of the Prime Minister. Is that starting to... Is he losing his shine a little bit when we look at how he's dealt with selling the message, in essence, about electricity?
He was always the great strength of this national government right from the very beginning, because he had a persona, and when he went out and did the photo opportunities, and he could pose around and be seen doing things and chat
having
away.
A pint.
Like drinking a pint and having a good old time. He looked a good old boy. He tended to devolve, and it was his style of operation. If Helen Clark had a very centralised structure of command, he devolved spokesman's roles to ministers. He gradually, like all Prime Ministers, has now become spokesman on everything, and that's where some of the weakness is showing at the moment, because the gloss is coming off and he's got to do something about it.
Well, I think the GCSB affair has damaged him, and I recently wrote that I didn't think it would damage him, but it's not so much the GCSB thing itself, it's the constant different versions of the truth. Which are now coming out. And I think it was John Armstrong who wrote about this and said that where he's being asked about how he got the number to ring Ian Fletcher, he comes up in Parliament over a 5-minute period with 4 or 5 different versions. New Zealanders don't like that. We understand that our politicians will be absolutely honest and above board, and this doesn't look like it. And I think this will damage him to the point it would not absolutely surprise me if there are mutterings within Cabinet and caucus in the National Party.
Oh, there always will be. What you're seeing this week, though, is a change of gear on the 9th floor of the Beehive. Kevin Taylor, the Chief Press Secretary, is moving across to a more coordinated role right across all those ministries, and the ministers moving up. Somebody who's got a good relationship with journalists on a day-to-day basis to take his old role. And I think what you're going to try and see is a more coordinated response towards marketing government policies across the whole of Cabinet.
Well, that will be fine. But I think the National Party's got the same problem as the Labour Party. They each have a leader, and the leader sort of is regarded as the party in New Zealand politics. And they both have a leader who can't be changed, because David Shearer can't be changed. He will still be the mumbling person that he was to begin with. He's not going to be able to get any charisma. And Key, on the other hand, is someone who can't stop talking. So he gets interviewed, he's asked a question, he goes follow up, and he does it himself.
Yeah, but I think
and the more he does that, the more he gets into trouble.
It's also how they pitch it across the whole of Cabinet. For example, this week on the power prices thing, and the Labour brought out, they were blindsided by that, and they've been struggling to find a good comeback. You know, you've had Stephen Joyce talking about, you know, basically Labour have become communists.
Let's play a clip of Stephen Joyce. This was him speaking to Duncan Garner on Radio Live.
You take the example of food, for example. I mean, that's a lot of people think food's too expensive. So what do? Organise a central planning agency where the boffins led by David Parker choose the price of food, who gets to sell it, and which supermarkets are built where.
This is quite interesting, isn't it? Because I'm not sure that Stephen Joyce is doing a good job of selling the message here.
No, I think that's absolutely stupid to go down that track. But I noticed John Armstrong in the Herald saying that maybe it's not so stupid, that there is a constituency for that sort of argument. There are people who fear that things are going to go too far to the left. And so maybe that's going to have some impact.
It's my understanding that that's where the government is trying to push it, actually,
Yeah.
that they're trying to, heading into the election, that Labour and the Greens together are way over to the left.
Yeah, I mean, there are two vital constituents in any campaign, I think a successful campaign anyway, fear and hope. And the hope is all, you know, life is going to be better after this. And fear, you try and ramp up the amount of fear about your opponents. And Labour could have gifted National a fair bit of that fear factor.
Well, Manny, I think this language also shows that National is quite concerned about this issue. They're not comfortable with this issue.
Conservatives. Let's talk about the Conservatives, because Colin Craig, do you think you've been defamed? He certainly had a bit of an uproar this week about being defamed. We have this image. This is from our fabulous green room, which was actually a dull shade of grey. And the two of you were in there. Bill Ralston, usual position, reclined.
Slouched.
Brian Edwards staring at the telly. Colin Craig, tell me what he tweeted about this.
Well, what he tweeted was that you'd said...
that I'd said he was very good,
yeah.
and you had said that we both agreed he was very good. That's what he tweeted, with the picture.
Which I think I'm consulting Chapman Chipper and Graham Seward. I mean, the thing is, it's green room etiquette, right? Someone does a program like this, they come in, and you always say, oh, that was very good. I mean, he could have broken down in tears and wet his pants and walked in, and we would have gone, oh, very good, very good. I've been misrepresented here by... What, you might be...
Well, no, I think you're misrepresenting yourself, because I'm now about to tell people what was actually said.
There you go.
You said to him, Colin, I find you very attractive, and he ran from the room.
OK.
That's actually what happened.
He sues people for
Moving on, let's take a clip from the Greens this week, and you may be aware, this was Gareth Hughes, when he, on camera, in soundbite TV, if you like, asked his advisor for clarification on what position the Greens were taking on an issue. Let's have a look at the interview with Tova O'Brien.
And the Greens are trying not to be too gleeful, with Energy spokesman Gareth Hughes even checking with a party spin doctor before reacting.
Well, hey Clint.
Yeah.
Are we pleased?
It's not why we did the policy.
Yeah, I know, but I think the government's done the right thing. I think it will be seen as a big blow to their asset sale.
Hey, Brian,
well, you know,
if
he was looking for publicity, he's got more publicity out of that than he could ever have hoped for. That is crazy. That's absolutely nuts.
Happens a lot, though.
But it's even nuts to have your advisor in the room with you when you're doing a television interview. Business people often do this. They have an advisor, PR person there, and they turn around and say, what should I say?
Media Training 101. When the camera's rolling and the microphone's on, you are on the record that you can't expect them to clean it up and take out the rough bits. The scary thing is, here's the Green spokesman on the whole issue, doesn't know what the party policy is, but Clint, which seemed the bookcase or whatever it was, you know, did have to tell him. I find that absurd.
But he's so baby-faced, he may get away with it.
What is he? Has he left school yet?
This is an interesting scenario, though, that when you are in an interview for, say, a program like the 6 o'clock news, you know that, you know, they're seeking a soundbite. It needs to be about 10 seconds, and sometimes people will have
so
2 or 3
obviously you should
there.
know what you're there to say. I mean, that is Bill says. That's the whole point. He didn't know what he was there to say. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Do you have an ethical issue with this at all?
No, not at all. It's very much like the Alistair Thompson interview with Mihi Forbes, where he thought he controlled the interview and tried to call a halt, and then the camera kept rolling, and then he said, after physically intimidating her, right, well, we can resume the interview. And she said, it's been gone all this time. She's in control, not the interviewee.
Well, you and I, as you probably know, disagree totally with that. I believe that was a totally dishonest interview. I believe he was hijacked and his career was destroyed. So that's my view of that.
It was, but I mean, more fool him, because the camera's rolling. You've got, when the camera rolls, you're on the record.
Or the microphone is on, every microphone
I think
is
you're
live.
assuming an understanding of television that a lot of people maybe don't have.
Well, if you're in politics or if you're a spokesman for an organisation, you should understand it. Gareth Hughes should understand that you don't go into an interview not knowing what you're going to say.
He's writing a book about it. I'm serious.
He did tweet the next day saying, "Hey, Clint, how do I get out of this one?"
All right, Brian Edwards, Bill Ralston, thank you.